The year was 2173. Humanity had come a long way since the day their home planet Earth was destroyed. 7,000 years had passed since that catastrophic event, but the scars still lingered in the collective memory of the species. The aliens who had done it were known as the Vorthak, a mysterious and advanced race whose motives no one truly understood. All anyone knew was that they had used a weapon so powerful it shattered Earth into pieces, scattering its remains across the solar system. Humanity did not go extinct that day. Instead, they adapted. Survivors fled to colonies scattered across distant stars, carrying with them fragments of their culture, history, and dreams of one day returning to their roots. Over centuries, these colonies grew into thriving communities. They built cities on barren moons, terraformed hostile planets, and created new homes among the stars. But even though they had rebuilt their lives, the pain of losing Earth remained buried deep in their hearts. On Nova Terra, one of the largest human colonies, a young historian named Jacob Grayson spent most of his days searching for answers about the past. He worked in an old library filled with dusty archives, ancient texts, and holographic records. His goal was simple: to uncover the truth about what happened to Earth and why the Vorthak had destroyed it. For Jacob, this wasn't just a job, it was a mission. He felt a deep connection to the stories of those who had lived and died on Earth, and he wanted to make sure their legacy was never forgotten. Jacob wasn't alone in his quest. Working alongside him was Elena Meyer, a brilliant astrophysicist with a sharp mind and a passion for unraveling mysteries. Unlike Jacob, Elena focused more on technology than history. She believed that understanding the tools and weapons of the Vorthak could give humanity a chance to protect itself if the aliens ever returned. Together, Jacob and Elena made a great team. While Jacob delved into the past, Elena looked to the stars, analyzing data from telescopes and probes in search of anything unusual. One evening, while poring over some recently discovered files, Jacob stumbled upon something extraordinary. Hidden within a damaged database were fragments of information about the weapon used by the Vorthak. It was called the Eclipse Core, a device capable of harnessing unimaginable amounts of energy. According to the records, the Eclipse Core didn't just destroy Earth. It erased entire civilizations, leaving behind nothing but empty voids. The thought sent shivers down Jacob's spine. Elena joined him at the table, her eyes scanning the screen. "This is incredible," she said softly. "If we can find the Eclipse Core or any remnants of it, we might be able to learn how it works. Maybe even reverse engineer it." Jacob nodded, though his expression was grim. "Or maybe it's better left alone. Do we really want to play with something that dangerous?" Elena sighed. "We don't have a choice. If the Vorthak are still out there, and I think they are, we need every advantage we can get. Knowledge is power, Jacob. We can't afford to ignore this." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. A tall man with broad shoulders and a stern face entered the room. This was Captain Ryan Dawson, a seasoned pilot and leader of the Starship Odyssey. Ryan had been assigned to oversee missions involving potential threats to humanity, and he had heard rumors about Jacob and Elena's discovery. "What do you have for me?" Ryan asked without preamble. His voice carried authority, but there was also a hint of curiosity beneath the surface. Jacob hesitated before speaking. "We found references to the Eclipse Core. There's evidence suggesting parts of it may still exist somewhere in the galaxy." Ryan's brow furrowed. "Parts of it? You mean the weapon that destroyed Earth?" "Yes," Elena replied quickly. "But we believe it's inactive now. If we can locate it, we might be able to study it safely." Ryan crossed his arms, clearly weighing the risks. "You realize this isn't just about science, right? If word gets out that we're chasing after alien superweapons, people will panic. And if the Vorthak are still around..." He trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "We know the risks," Jacob said firmly. "But we can't keep running forever. Sooner or later we'll have to face them. Why not prepare while we still can?" After a moment of silence, Ryan nodded. "All right, I'll take your findings to the council. If they approve, we'll assemble a team and head out. But remember, this stays between us until then. Over the next few weeks, preparations began in earnest. The council granted permission for the mission, recognizing its importance despite the dangers involved. A small crew was selected to accompany Jacob and Elena aboard the Odyssey. Among them were Samantha Blake, a skilled engineer responsible for keeping the ship running smoothly, and Daniel Harper, a former soldier turned navigator whose tactical expertise would prove invaluable. As the launch date approached, excitement mingled with anxiety among the crew. None of them knew exactly what lay ahead, but they all shared a common purpose: to ensure humanity's survival. For Jacob, the mission represented more than just scientific exploration. It was a chance to honor the memory of those who had lost everything. For Elena, it was an opportunity to push the boundaries of human knowledge. And for Ryan, it was a personal redemption arc driven by the loss of his family during the early days of humanity's exodus. Finally, the day arrived. The Odyssey stood ready on the launch pad, its sleek hull gleaming under artificial lights. As the engines roared to life, the crew strapped themselves in, bracing for the journey ahead. Through the viewport, Jacob watched as Nova Terra grew smaller and smaller, eventually disappearing into the vastness of space. For the first time in thousands of years, humanity was stepping boldly into the unknown, driven by hope, determination, and a burning desire to reclaim its place among the stars. Little did they know their journey would lead them to discoveries far greater and far more perilous than they could have imagined. The journey through the uncharted regions of space was long and challenging. The Odyssey moved steadily forward, its engines humming softly as it carried its crew deeper into the unknown. For weeks, the ship drifted past stars that no human eyes had ever seen before. Each day brought new wonders: glittering nebulae, swirling gas clouds, and distant planets bathed in the light of alien suns. Yet, despite the beauty surrounding them, the mood aboard the ship grew tense. Life on the Odyssey followed a strict routine. Jacob spent most of his time studying the data they had gathered about the Eclipse core. He pored over ancient texts and analyzed patterns in the energy signatures Elena had identified. His mind raced with questions. What exactly was the Eclipse core? How did it work? And why had the Vorthak used it to destroy Earth? These mysteries weighed heavily on him, but he refused to give up. Every fragment of information brought them closer to understanding their enemy. Elena, meanwhile, worked tirelessly at her station, monitoring the ship's sensors for any signs of Vorthak activity. She knew the chances of finding something were slim, but she remained hopeful. Her sharp eyes scanned the screens, searching for anomalies or anything out of the ordinary. She often stayed up late into the night, running simulations and testing theories. Though she rarely admitted it, the pressure of the mission weighed on her too. If they failed, humanity might never recover. Samantha Blake kept the ship running smoothly. As the chief engineer, she was responsible for maintaining the Odyssey's complex systems. From repairing faulty wiring to calibrating the navigation array, Samantha tackled every problem with precision and determination. She had a knack for fixing things quickly, earning her the nickname Miracle Worker among the crew. Despite her focus on the technical side of the mission, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The farther they traveled from Nova Terra, the more isolated they became. It was as if the galaxy itself didn't want them there. Daniel Harper, the navigator, played a crucial role in guiding the ship through treacherous areas of space. With years of military training behind him, Daniel was adept at reading maps and predicting potential threats. He spent hours plotting courses and analyzing star charts, ensuring the Odyssey avoided asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies. Though he rarely spoke about it, Daniel carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. If he made a mistake, the entire mission could fail. Captain Ryan Dawson kept a close watch over everyone. As the leader of the expedition, he felt personally accountable for the safety of his crew. Ryan held regular meetings to discuss progress and address concerns. He encouraged open communication, knowing that trust was essential for success. At the same time, He enforced strict discipline, reminding the team of the dangers they faced. Despite his tough exterior, Ryan cared deeply about each member of the crew. He saw them not just as colleagues, but as family. One evening, as the ship floated near a cluster of asteroids, Elena noticed something unusual on her monitor. A faint energy signature pulsed faintly in the distance. At first, she thought it might be interference from the ship's systems, but further analysis confirmed it was real. The signal matched the patterns she had been tracking, the same ones, associated with Vorthak technology. "Jacob," Elena called out, excitement in her voice. "You need to see this." Jacob hurried over to her station. "What is it?" "I've detected an energy spike coming from a derelict spacecraft nearby," Elena explained. "It's weak, but it's definitely there. Could this be what we're looking for?" Jacob studied the readings carefully. "It's possible we should investigate." Ryan agreed. After consulting with the crew, he decided to send a small team to board the mysterious vessel. Jacob, Elena, Daniel, and Samantha suited up and prepared to leave the Odyssey. They climbed into a shuttle and set off toward the drifting craft, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they approached, the derelict ship loomed large in the viewport. Its surface was battered and scarred, covered in strange symbols etched into the metal. The design was unmistakably alien, unlike anything humanity had encountered before. The sight filled the team with both awe and apprehension. Once inside, the air was thick with dust and silence. The corridors were dimly lit, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Strange markings glowed faintly, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine as he examined the symbols. They seemed to tell a story, though he couldn't decipher their meaning. "This place gives me the creeps," Samantha muttered, clutching her toolkit tightly. "Stay focused," Daniel reminded her. "We're here for answers." They moved, cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. Eventually, they reached the heart of the ship, a massive chamber containing a partially intact device. It was shaped like a sphere, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shimmered faintly. This had to be the source of the energy signature. Elena approached the object carefully, her scanner beeping rapidly. "This is it," she whispered. "It's emitting the same signal we detected earlier." Jacob stepped closer, examining the sphere. "Do you think it's part of the Eclipse Core?" "It's hard to say," Elena replied. "But it's definitely Vorthak technology. If we can bring it back to the Odyssey, we might be able to analyze it further." As they worked to secure the artifact, something strange began to happen. Jacob suddenly felt dizzy, overwhelmed by vivid images flashing in his mind. He saw glimpses of Earth before its destruction, cities bustling with life, oceans sparkling under sunlight, forests teeming with wildlife. Then, abruptly, the vision shifted to chaos. Fire rained from the sky, buildings crumbled, and people screamed in terror. Jacob stumbled backward, gripping his head. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked, rushing to his side. I don't know," Jacob stammered. I saw Earth before it was destroyed." Elena frowned. "The artifact must be transmitting some kind of memory. Be careful, it could affect all of us." Sure enough, moments later, the others began experiencing similar sensations. Samantha froze mid-step, staring blankly as fragments of unfamiliar scenes played out in her mind. Daniel shook his head, trying to clear the fog. Even Elena, who prided herself on staying calm, found herself struggling to focus. "We need to get out of here," Ryan said firmly over the comms. "That thing is dangerous." Reluctantly, the team agreed. They secured the artifact and returned to the shuttle, eager to put distance between themselves and the derelict ship. Back aboard the Odyssey, they conducted preliminary tests on the sphere, hoping to unlock its secrets without triggering another wave of visions. Despite the risks, the discovery rekindled their hope. For the first time, they had tangible proof of the Vorthak's existence and perhaps even a clue to finding their homeworld. But as they continued their journey, one question lingered in everyone's mind. Was the knowledge they sought worth the price they might have to pay? The artifact brought aboard the Odyssey was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if alive, and the strange symbols etched into it pulsed with an eerie glow. Jacob couldn't shake the visions he had experienced while near it, images of Earth before its destruction, followed by scenes of chaos and devastation. He knew the artifact wasn't just a piece of alien technology. It carried memories, fragments of history trapped within its core. Elena spent hours studying the sphere, running tests to understand its composition and purpose. She discovered that the artifact emitted low-level energy waves, which seemed to interact with the human brain. This explained why everyone who came close to it experienced vivid hallucinations. While the visions were unsettling, they also hinted at the artifact's true nature. It wasn't just a weapon or a tool. It was a repository of knowledge, preserving the past in ways no human technology could. Despite the breakthrough, tensions began to rise among the crew. Some, like Samantha, grew increasingly uneasy around the artifact. "It feels wrong," she said one evening during a meal. "Like it's watching us," Daniel tried to reassure her. "It's just a machine, Sam. It can't think or feel. We're safe as long as we handle it carefully." But Samantha wasn't convinced. "You didn't see what I saw when I touched it. It showed me things I don't want to remember." Her words hung heavy in the air. Others nodded quietly, acknowledging their own unease. Even Ryan, usually calm and composed, admitted that the artifact made him uncomfortable. "We need to be cautious," he told the team. "If this thing is affecting us psychologically, we can't afford to let it disrupt our mission." Jacob, however, saw the artifact differently. To him, it was a window into the past, a chance to understand not only the Vorthak, but also the events that led to Earth's destruction. He spent hours poring over the symbols, trying to decode their meaning. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The symbols weren't random. They told a story, though it was fragmented and difficult to piece together. One night, while the rest of the crew slept, Jacob sat alone in the lab, staring at the glowing sphere. He reached out tentatively, placing his hand on its cool surface. Instantly, the visions returned, stronger this time. He saw Earth again, thriving and vibrant, but now the images included people, humans living their lives, unaware of the doom approaching. Then, abruptly, the scene shifted to the Vorthak. They were tall, angular beings with elongated limbs and glowing eyes. Their movements were deliberate, almost mechanical, and their expressions revealed nothing. No emotion, no compassion, only cold calculation. Jacob pulled his hand away, gasping for breath. His heart raced as he processed what he had seen. The Vorthak weren't mindless destroyers, they acted with purpose. But what drove them? What fear or belief compelled them to annihilate entire civilizations? The next morning, Jacob shared his findings with the team. "I think the artifact is showing us the Vorthak's perspective," he said. "They didn't destroy Earth because they hated us. They did it because they were afraid of us, or maybe afraid of something else entirely." Elena frowned. "Afraid of what?" "That's what we need to figure out," Jacob replied. "But if we can understand their motives, we might find a way to stop them, or at least protect ourselves." While Jacob focused on decoding the artifact, Elena worked on analyzing its energy signature. Using advanced equipment, she traced the signal back to its origin. Her calculations pointed to a distant star system shrouded in distortion fields designed to conceal its location. "This has to be it," she said excitedly. "The Vorthak homeworld." Ryan called a meeting to discuss the next steps. "We have two options," he began. "We can return to Novaterra with the artifact and let the Council decide what to do, or we can follow the signal and investigate further. But going there comes with risks. If the Vorthak are still active, we'll be walking straight into enemy territory." The room fell silent as the crew considered their choices. Samantha spoke first. "We've already come so far. If we turn back now, we'll never know what we're dealing with." Daniel nodded in agreement. "She's right. We can't afford to play it safe anymore. If the Vorthak are out there, we need to face them head on." After some debate, Ryan made the decision. We go forward, but we prepare for the worst. Everyone needs to be ready for whatever we find. As the Odyssey approached the hidden star system, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. The distortion field surrounding the area made navigation difficult, forcing Daniel to rely on instinct and skill to guide the ship safely through. Finally, they emerged into a vast expanse dominated by a massive planet surrounded by rings of debris. The sight was breathtaking and ominous. "This is it," Elena whispered. "The Vorthak homeworld." Closer inspection revealed that the planet was heavily fortified, protected by layers of automated defenses. Drones patrolled the skies, scanning for intruders while massive structures dotted the surface, their purpose unclear. Despite the danger, Jacob felt a surge of determination. They had come too far to turn back now. Ryan devised a plan. "We'll split into 2 teams. One will stay aboard the Odyssey, keeping the ship ready in case we need to make a quick escape. The other will take a shuttle and land on the planet, searching for clues about the Vorthak and their technology." Jacob, Elena, and Daniel volunteered to join the landing party, leaving Samantha behind to oversee the ship's systems. As they descended toward the surface, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. The landscape below was barren and desolate, littered with ruins that hinted at a once great civilization. Strange towers jutted out of the ground, their surfaces covered in the same glowing symbols found on the artifact. Upon landing, the team stepped cautiously onto the alien soil. The air was cold and dry, carrying an unnatural stillness. Jacob scanned the area, his eyes drawn to a massive structure in the distance. "That looks like some kind of command center," he said. "If we can get inside, we might find answers." The journey to the structure was fraught with challenges. Automated drones patrolled the area, forcing the team to move stealthily to avoid detection. At one point, they encountered a group of creatures, likely native to the planet, that attacked without warning. Daniel used his combat training to fend them off, while Elena and Jacob provided cover. Finally, they reached the entrance to the command center. The doors were sealed shut, but Elena managed to bypass the security system using data from the artifact. Inside, they found a labyrinth of corridors and chambers filled with advanced machinery. The walls were lined with holographic displays, projecting images of stars, planets, and civilizations long gone. Jacob stopped in front of one display, his breath catching in his throat. It showed Earth, not as it was before its destruction, but as it existed thousands of years earlier. Humans were depicted as primitive beings, wielding crude tools and living in small tribes. Above them loomed a shadowy figure, the Vorthak. The message was clear. The Vorthak had been watching humanity for millennia, studying its development, waiting for the moment it became a threat. "They've been planning this for a long time," Jacob murmured. "Destroying Earth wasn't an act of hatred, it was premeditated." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can't change the past, Jacob, but we can use this knowledge to protect the future." As they continued exploring, they stumbled upon a control room containing a device similar to the artifact. It hummed softly, emitting the same energy signature. Elena approached it cautiously, her scanner buzzing with activity. "This must be part of the Eclipse Core," she said. "If we can activate it, we might be able to disable the Vorthak's defenses." But activating the device came with risks. Jacob hesitated, recalling the visions he had experienced earlier. "Are you sure this is a good idea? What if it does more harm than good?" Elena met his gaze steadily. "We don't have a choice. If we want to survive, we have to take the chance." With a deep breath, she initiated the activation sequence. The room lit up as the device sprang to life, sending waves of energy rippling outward. Alarms blared throughout the facility, signaling that their presence had been detected. "We need to move," Daniel shouted, grabbing Elena's arm. The team sprinted back toward the shuttle, pursued by swarms of drones and automated turrets. Explosions rocked the ground as they fought their way through the chaos. Just as they reached the shuttle, Ryan's voice crackled over the comms. "Get out of there now. The Odyssey is under attack." Without hesitation, The team launched the shuttle, narrowly escaping the planet's surface. As they rejoined the Odyssey, they watched in awe as the Eclipse Core's activation disrupted the Vorthax network, disabling their defenses and creating an opening for humanity to strike back. Though the battle was far from over, one thing was certain: humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming its destiny. The Odyssey roared to life as the crew prepared for their final stand against the Vorthak. The activation of the Eclipse Core had weakened the alien defenses, but it hadn't destroyed them completely. Drones still swarmed around the ship, firing relentless salvos that rocked the hull and tested its shields. Inside, the team worked frantically to keep everything running smoothly, while Ryan guided the ship through the chaos. "We can't hold out forever," Samantha shouted from her station in the engine room. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, rerouting power to the shields and stabilizing the engines. "If they keep hitting us like this, we'll lose structural integrity." Ryan's voice came sharply over the comms. "We don't have time to retreat. We've got one shot at this." "Elena, what's the status on the Eclipse Core?" Elena was strapped into her seat on the bridge, her eyes glued to the monitors displaying streams of data. She had been analyzing the core's effects since their escape from the planet's surface. "It's destabilizing their network, but not fast enough. If we can amplify the energy output, we might be able to collapse their entire system." Jacob, seated nearby, leaned forward urgently. "How do we do that?" "The artifact we brought aboard, it's linked to the core. Maybe we can use it to boost the signal." Elena nodded, understanding immediately where he was going with his idea. "It's risky. Overloading the artifact could damage the ship, or worse, trigger another wave of those visions. But if it works, it's our best chance," Jacob finished firmly. Ryan didn't hesitate. "Do it. Jacob, Elena, get down to the lab and prep the artifact. Daniel, stay on navigation. Keep us alive long enough for them to finish." The two scientists rushed to the lab, their footsteps echoing in the narrow corridors. The artifact sat securely in its containment unit, glowing faintly as if aware of the urgency surrounding it. Jacob opened the case carefully, his hands trembling slightly. He knew the risks, they all did, but failure wasn't an option. Humanity's survival depended on this moment. Elena connected the artifact to a series of cables and sensors, feeding its energy into the ship's systems. "I'm linking it to the main power grid," she explained. "Once we overload it, the energy will pulse outward, targeting the Vorthak network." Jacob adjusted the settings, ensuring the process would be as controlled as possible. "Ready when you are." Back on the bridge, Ryan gripped the controls tightly, dodging blasts from enemy drones. The ship shuddered violently as another round of fire struck the shields. "Samantha, how are the shields holding up?" he demanded. "Barely," she replied, her voice strained. "At this rate, we'll lose them in under 5 minutes." "Just hold on a little longer," Ryan barked. He glanced at the timer counting down on the main screen. They were running out of time and options. In the lab, Elena initiated the sequence. The artifact began to glow brighter, its light filling the room with an intense, otherworldly radiance. Jacob shielded his eyes, feeling a strange pressure building in his head. The visions returned, Earth burning, the Vorthak advancing, but he forced himself to focus. "It's working," he said through gritted teeth. "But it's unstable. We need to channel the energy now or it'll explode." Elena typed furiously, redirecting the surge toward the ship's external emitters. "Activating pulse in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash erupted from the Odyssey, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The Vorthak drones froze, mid-flight, their systems disrupted by the overwhelming burst of energy. One by one, they plummeted lifelessly toward the planet below. The massive structures dotting the surface flickered and went dark, their once impenetrable defenses crumbling. On the bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence as the battlefield transformed before their eyes. For the first time in days, the HFY attacks ceased. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines and the relieved sighs of the team. "We did it," Daniel murmured, breaking the quiet. "We actually did it." Ryan allowed himself a brief smile. "Not yet. Let's make sure they're finished." The Odyssey approached the planet cautiously, scanning for any signs of remaining resistance. To everyone's relief, the Vorthak, Infrastructure lay in ruins. Their automated defenses were offline and no new threats emerged. It seemed the Eclipse Corps' disruption had dealt a fatal blow to their operations. As the adrenaline faded, exhaustion set in. The crew gathered in the mess hall, sharing a rare moment of calm. Samantha slumped into a chair, cradling a steaming cup of coffee. "That was insane," she said, shaking her head. "I thought we were done for." "You weren't wrong," Daniel admitted with a wry grin. "But we made it. That's what matters." Jacob sat quietly, staring at the table. Despite their victory, he couldn't shake the weight of what they'd uncovered. The Vorthak hadn't acted out of malice. They had been driven by fear, a fear so profound it led them to destroy countless civilizations. Was humanity any different? Hadn't they also fought tooth and nail to survive? Elena noticed his expression and placed a hand on his shoulder. "What's bothering you?" "I keep thinking about the Vorthak," Jacob confessed. "They saw us as a threat because they were afraid of being wiped out themselves. And now, we've done the same thing to them." Elena frowned. "You think we're no better than they are?" "I don't know," Jacob admitted. "Maybe we had no choice. But I can't help wondering if there's another way, a way to break this cycle of destruction." Ryan joined the conversation, his tone thoughtful. "Maybe there isn't, for now. But we've taken a step toward protecting ourselves. That's something. And maybe someday, when we're stronger, we can find a way to coexist instead of fighting." For several days, the Odyssey remained in orbit around the Vorthak homeworld. Gathering as much information as possible, Jacob and Elena worked tirelessly, documenting everything they could about the alien technology and culture. They hoped their findings would help humanity prepare for future encounters, not just with the Vorthak, but with other species they might encounter in the vastness of space. Finally, it was time to leave. The crew stood on the bridge watching as the desolate planet grew smaller and smaller in the viewport. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. They had accomplished what they set out to do, but the cost weighed heavily on each of them. As the Odyssey entered hyperspace, heading back toward Nova Terra, Jacob gazed out at the stars streaking past. He thought about Earth, its beauty, its tragedy, and the resilience of the people who called it home. Though the planet was gone, its spirit lived on in every human heart. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a spark of hope. Humanity had endured unimaginable hardships, but it had also shown incredible strength and determination. Perhaps the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but Jacob knew one thing for certain. As long as they kept learning, kept striving, and refused to give up, humanity would continue to rise. From the ashes of destruction came the promise of renewal and the dream of a brighter future. The journey back to Nova Terra was quieter than the trip out. The crew of the Odyssey had faced unimaginable challenges, fought battles they never thought they'd survive, and uncovered secrets that would shape humanity's future. But now, as the ship drifted through the vast emptiness of space, there was a sense of calm, a fragile peace after the storm. Jacob spent much of his time alone in the lab, organizing the data they had collected from the Vorthak homeworld. He sifted through holographic images, scanned documents, and energy readings, piecing together the story of a civilization consumed by fear. The more he learned, the more he realized how similar humans and the Vorthak truly were. Both species sought survival at all costs, willing to destroy others if it meant protecting themselves. It was a sobering realization, one that left him questioning whether humanity could ever break free from the cycle of violence. Elena joined him occasionally, offering her insights and helping him make sense of the complex alien technology. "Do you think we'll ever understand them fully?" she asked one evening, leaning against the edge of the table. Jacob shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe understanding isn't the point. What matters is what we do with what we've learned." Elena nodded slowly. "You're right. We can't change the past, but we can use this knowledge to build a better future, for ourselves and for anyone else out there." Their conversation was interrupted by Ryan entering the room. His expression was unreadable, but his tone carried a hint of pride. "We're almost home," he announced. "The council will want a full report when we arrive." Jacob and Elena exchanged glances. They both knew the return wouldn't be easy. The council would have questions, difficult ones, and not everyone would agree with the choices they had made. But they also knew their mission had been necessary. Humanity couldn't afford to remain ignorant or unprepared any longer. When the Odyssey finally docked on Nova Terra, the crew was greeted as heroes. News of their victory spread quickly, igniting celebrations across the colonies. People poured into the streets, waving flags and cheering loudly. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt a renewed sense of hope. The shadow of the Vorthak no longer loomed over them. Instead, it served as a reminder of their strength and resilience. The council convened immediately, eager to hear the details of the mission. Jacob and Elena presented their findings, explaining how the Eclipse Core worked, what they had discovered about the Vorthak, and the risks they had taken to neutralize the threat. Some members of the council expressed concern about the ethical implications of using alien technology, while others praised the crew for their bravery and ingenuity. "We did what we had to do," Ryan said firmly during the meeting. "If we hadn't acted, the Vorthak might still pose a danger to us today. This isn't just about revenge, it's about survival." His words resonated with many, and eventually the council agreed to support further research into the artifacts and data brought back from the mission. Jacob and Elena proposed creating an institute dedicated to studying alien civilizations and fostering cooperation between species. They envisioned a future where humanity could coexist peacefully with others, rather than resorting to conflict. The council approved the idea, and within weeks construction began on the Institute of Galactic Preservation. Located near the heart of Nova Terra's capital city, the facility became a hub for scientists, historians, and diplomats from across the colonies. Its mission was clear: to learn from the mistakes of the past and work toward a brighter, more unified future. For Jacob, the Institute represented a chance to honor the memory of Earth and everything it stood for. He threw himself into his work, collaborating with Elena and other experts to decode the mysteries of the Vorthak and preserve the lessons humanity had learned. Together they wrote papers, gave lectures, and shared their discoveries with the world. Slowly but surely, people began to see the value in understanding, not just conquering the unknown. Samantha stayed aboard the Odyssey, overseeing upgrades and repairs to ensure the ship was ready for future missions. She found comfort in the familiar hum of the engines and the satisfaction of solving technical problems. Though she missed the camaraderie of the team, she knew her role was vital. The Odyssey wasn't just a vessel. It was a symbol of exploration and progress. Daniel took a position as a trainer for new recruits, teaching them the skills he had honed during years of service. He believed strongly in passing on his knowledge, ensuring the next generation would be prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. His students admired him for his discipline and dedication, and he inspired many to pursue careers in space exploration. As for Ryan, he stepped down as captain of the Odyssey, choosing instead to focus on mentoring young leaders and advocating for peaceful solutions to interstellar conflicts. He often visited the Institute, sharing stories of his experiences and encouraging others to think beyond fear and distrust. Though he carried scars from his past, both physical and emotional, he remained hopeful for the future. Months turned into years, and life on Nova Terra continued to flourish. The colonies expanded, new technologies emerged, and humanity reached farther into the stars than ever before. Yet, even as they celebrated their achievements, the crew of the Odyssey never forgot the sacrifices that had made it all possible. They carried those memories with them, reminders of the cost of survival and the promise of redemption. One evening, Jacob stood outside the Institute, looking up at the night sky. The stars twinkled brightly, each one a beacon of possibility. Somewhere out there, fragments of Earth still drifted through space, carrying whispers of a planet long gone. But in its place stood something new, a legacy of resilience, courage, and hope. Elena joined him, her presence warm and reassuring. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. Earth, Jacob replied, and everything we've done since it was destroyed. We've come so far, Elena. I just wonder, do you think we'll ever find another place like it? She smiled gently. Maybe not exactly like it, but we'll keep searching. And along the way, we'll create something even better. A home not just for us, but for everyone. Jacob nodded, feeling a quiet sense of peace settle over him. Whatever the future held, humanity was ready to face it, together.